Welcome to High Five. My God, that was enthusiastic for Friday afternoon. And Rory missed the cue. We do this every Friday, broadcasting at 5 o'clock about our last 5 days of learning. And you can see we've got a wonderful guest on screen at the moment. I'm going to introduce just in a second. Just before I do that, Rory is in the most over-branded office environment I've ever seen in my life. Even the HQ doesn't do it justice.
Still like feeling like that game show host from last week. Higher, lower.
And last week, if you were watching, Rory did this wee card here, always leaving smiling because of the brilliant work. So just briefly, Rory, tell us what you've done in the last 5 days of learning.
In the last 5 days of learning, I have demoed to another 20 families who came through the doors at Merchants of Fun. So that has included demos of one of my absolute favorite games called Cheeky Boom. And that has also involved probably the best card game I've ever played, which is a card game called Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. And more about that in the coming weeks. But it's just, if you can't laugh at that game, there's something actually probably dead inside about you. So that has been my highlight of the week, just seeing people not taking themselves seriously in front of their kids, actually just playing games and having lots of fun.
Taco Cat Goat's Cheese Pizza. Okay.
Red
Night Toy Group. If you check out some of the stuff that Rory's got there, you'll be able to get your Christmas presents all stocked up and you wouldn't have to go shopping. Anyway, Jeff Way has joined us because he was nominated last week and we randomly shuffled the car. Afternoon, Jeff.
Afternoon, chaps.
Great to see you, mate. Great to see you. You got randomly this card here. Was Once Upon a Time you got, sorry, wasn't it? I've got the other card in front of me, the red one. Once Upon a Time card. And we did not pick that deliberately. We just randomly shuffled them. And, you know, I know a bit more of what's going on in your world at the moment than maybe what's broadcasted out there around the power of story and the power of Once Upon a Time. So I think we picked a pretty good card for you. So firstly, afternoon, and let's know what you've done with that card, given you were nominated, Jeff.
It's a really good card for me. So thank you for nominating and thank the gods for choosing a theme around stories. Because as you both well know, I am actually in the process of publishing my own book, which will be out in January at some point. I've been thinking long and hard about stories this week because stories form a big part of everyday life, whether that's in the workplace or indeed at home around the dinner table or the breakfast table. So it really got me thinking, and it got me thinking about a story which most people will be familiar with, and that's the story of the Three Little Pigs. As you know, we've got a little one, Jess, who will be familiar with the Three Little Pigs and lots of those types of stories. But there is a baddie within the story of the Three Little Pigs called the Big Bad Wolf. And if you aren't familiar with it, or just as a quick recap, the Big Bad Wolf goes round chasing the three little pigs and one by one tries to pick them off. But the three pigs get a little bit wiser and most importantly come together to destroy or to hold the Big Bad Wolf at bay. Now, I use this story quite a lot in a training setting because the question I always pose is, what's the moral of the story? And I'm going to ask you guys the question, as I would anybody else. What do you think the moral of that story is?
I always think the moral of the story is bullies don't win.
Okay. Rory, what about you?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it that deeply, and I should have.
Well, I like where Scott's going. Typically, what people say is, build your house out of bricks. Build better foundations, and they wouldn't be wrong. But what I like to kind of introduce and put into people's minds is, if you notice, depending on the actual version that you read, but if you notice what happens as we go through that story, the first little pig who builds his house out of straw ends up in the house with the second little pig who builds his house out of sticks. And the second and the first little pig end up in the third house, which is built out of bricks. And for me, what that typifies is not only collaboration, but the importance of working together. And the reason I choose to share this story today, and it's been running through my mind for the last couple of days, is we've faced our own big bad wolf over 2020, and it's impacted us in many different ways, some from a health perspective, many from a working perspective. But actually, one of the wonderful things that we have seen, and this is where the spotlight, as Kirsty Mack talks about it, has been, really kind of placed on the whole of humankind, is we've seen people coming together, whether that's helping the neighbor and checking that they're okay, or whether that's checking in with friends on social media, or posting things on social media that just say, I'm there if you want to talk. And I think the link back to the Three Little Pigs is we have come together. And because we've come together, we've actually developed this bigger strength and this bigger community. And we've been allowed to kind of, be kind and be empathetic and be warm with each other. And for me, that's the moral of the story, whether that's the Three Little Pigs or where we are right now as we enter into lockdown 2.0 in many cases, or experience lockdown again, is there's so many lessons that we can take from earlier in the year and the Three Little Pigs, that if we just continue to apply them as we have done, then we're going to start to see some of the great results that we saw earlier in the year of humans helping one another. There's my story.
That is brilliant, Jeff. Fantastic. And you've given Rory Kelly, who eats books for a living, a chance to reflect on a story he's probably heard more than any other that he's never really considered.
And I've never really, and absolutely through probably synchronicity, at this point, I recommended Three Little Pigs to Emma this week for Jess, which is a game that we carry here at the store. That's not a shameless tag or anything. It's just that it's just mad that you've been thinking about that. It's crazy.
I was thinking about the context of house within that story, actually, as you're telling it, that actually through the power of us not being able to go into people's houses at the moment, the big bad wolves blowing outside, we've actually built an even stronger power of collaboration with each other. And I spoke to someone the other day who, I would say, if we use the pirouetting word rather than the pivoting word here, because we tend to prefer this at the moment because it's not as though we're used, Gavin Oates' pirouetting word. This gentleman pirouetted his business before we'd even defined what to do next. He just revolutionised into somewhere else. And actually looking at what he's done with his business 8 months later, it's in a completely different state. The business is trading differently. If you look at the collaborative work that we've done with each other, between the three of us, between Kirsty, you mentioned there, and each other, and Kirsty and myself that have done so many things, and what we did with Virtual Punks recently, that would not have come on the landscape had we not had the big bad wolf blowing the house down and doing something about it. But we've pushed ourselves harder in that space, but hopefully reminding ourselves to be kind to ourselves and be gentle to ourselves at the same time while we're trying to make those movements forward. Brilliant story.
Does that mean that I suppose we could think about that the digital space has become that home that we're all in now?
Yeah,
we're building communities on it, as you say, Scott, and it's been a great tool for keeping people connected. It's been a great tool for just whether it's people doing family pub quizzes or whatever the case has been. So.
There's a gentleman that I know that you know, Jeff. I'm not sure that you do, Rory, and Dave Copland. And Dave's whole principle about future technologies is that it should enable humans, not disable humans. It should allow the space for humans to flourish within it. And I read both of Dave's books that he'd published before any of this happened, and I thought, oh, the guy's talking so much sense. But I kept thinking to myself, right, how do I do that? And he was telling me how to do it, but I clearly wasn't reading it in depth enough to get the whole rhythm of it and how to do it. But we've just taught ourselves that lesson of how we can make digital more human. And the future of the workplace, yes, it's digital, but it's digital powered by human in the way in which we do things. Every week at 5, we also get you to either choose a card or shuffle the cards and choose one at random and nominate somebody else. So I'm intrigued to know which card and who, and it's at this point also within High Five, we normally feel that Rory Kelly's got the most organised card deck in front of him as a card shuffler extraordinaire, and I'm normally like, where's the cards? I can't find them. So Jeff, who and which, please?
Okay, so the person I'm going to nominate is Bev Holden.
Yes.
who you both know very well and I know very well as well. And the card that I am going to give her is this one.
Wish you were here. Nice.
And there is a reason behind that. And that is, I get inspired by the posts that Bev actually puts out on Instagram, especially around her local environment and where she's based in the country. So I'm hoping that that one will work for Bev.
Brilliant. She's got some lovely coastal pictures that she puts up every other day. I see them on Facebook as well, and she's posting them every day and what her area looks like. Great. Okay, Bev, I am coming to chat to you at some point in the next week. If Rory can shut the shop for 5 minutes and enjoy it.
Justin is downstairs at the minute, so every Friday Justin will be there and I will be in the Cognitize room.
God help you. Justin, if you're watching this, get your hands at the till. We'll see you next Friday at 5 o'clock. Thanks again, Jeff, for your time. Thank you, Rory. See you soon. High five.
Take care, guys.